Welcome to the last afternoon sessions on the last day of World Aviation Festival. We know this is always one of the toughest challenges, and that's why we have got this great panel to talk with us about digital products. Just briefly, I'm going to ask everyone to go around, introduce themselves quickly since they've taken away the slide, and then we'll get started. Oliver, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hello everybody. First, apologize, I have a cold today, but I'm working for Lufthansa Group and I'm responsible for all the digital customer experience within the group.
Quincy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Quincy Hunte. I'm the Vice President for Digital Products. So think about all our digital experiences and interfaces for our customers, the platforms and solutions that they use. That's what I manage for Qatar Airways.
Yes.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Roger van Enk. I'm Senior Vice President for Customer Engagement at Finnair, which basically means I run the B2C side of our business, brand marketing and other things, and Finnair is Santa's official airline.
Hello, hi everyone. So my name is Olivier Vidal. I'm working for the Atrius company, so we are providing indoor mapping, wayfinding, and location services for airports and around the world.
Hi, I'm Steve Morland. I'm the CTO at Leighton. We're an organization that helps other organizations adopt new technology, cloud transformation, and Gen AI.
Okay, so I'd like to start, the title of the session is How are airlines adapting their digital products and experiences amidst the many digital technologies that are now available? But I want to start with this question, and it's a continuation from the panel we had with John. Customers are going to want to use technology and get in touch with airlines the way they want. So, against that background, what responsibility do we have, even though we might want them to use certain things? How do we make sure we are accommodating a range of touch points so that we can be customer focused? Quincy, I'm going to start with you because I know Qatar is very, very customer focused. So let's just start to see how you all are handling this.
Yeah, sure. So we are very customer centric. A lot of things that we do, all our initiatives, our decisions are based on getting these signals from the customer. So for us, it's very important to understand who our customers are, what are their pain points, what are the friction points that they face as they go through the travel journey, and then understanding where we can augment that journey through digitization, optimization, or looking at where we can add more efficiency in terms of what we do on the back end to serve them. So a lot of the core principles around what we do to help solve those issues or develop the challenge for those customers is really based on the foundational element of understanding who your customer is. So my experience is I came from a tech background, I came from Amazon. So we have this whole principle, when I came to Amazon, to Qatar Airways, I was thinking, okay, well, we're going to have to show these guys how to work backwards from the customers. Qatar Airways has mastered that. So we work backwards from the customer, understand what they are, understand what touch points that they need to interface with, and then we work from that to develop what are the channels that are appropriate for them to serve them as well.
Okay. Olivier, Roger, what about at your airlines? Similar or different approach? Different?
Yeah, quite similar. So maybe what I can add to this is that COVID had a huge impact on most airlines. A lot of manual processes, particularly on the servicing side, broke down. There was just not enough people. The Band-Aids just couldn't handle the demand. So we focused, and most airlines have focused on building self-service features. Finns in particular, who are the biggest group of customers that we have, tend to be a bit more reserved. They don't want to pick up the phone and call someone, don't want to speak to someone maybe. So digital solutions have been really our go-to area. And maybe just to throw something out there, so the percentage of customers that self-service bookings at Finnair is close to 90%. So whether that's check-in, changing your flight, getting refunds, almost everything is digital. 9 in 10 customers does it in a digital way. And we are very focused on closing the final 10% and get to almost like 100% self-service. That being said, the high-end customers in business class, et cetera, are top-tier frequent flyers. We will still provide them with that, personal touch.
Right.
But for the vast majority, it's self-service, digital, and I think that's what customers prefer.
Okay. So we all have a variety of digital tools available. Different models, of course, for the different airlines and different routes, even within the airline. We all understand this. What are some of the better ways to use digital tools and create digital experiences to sell the products, whether it's a core product, an ancillary product, a bundle of products, a third-party partner's products? What are some of the things you all are looking at to do this so that your customers find the value they want, beyond just the price they pay. Oliver, start us off.
Oh, thanks a lot. So I do believe we are seeing a quantum leap, something significantly changing in the industry. So in the past times, we used AI just to decide which product to sell, right, in a very singular way. But what we are trying to do now, we try to create an environment in which the customer feels really safe. It's a trusted, it's a seamless, and it's more and more a human environment we want to make, right? Empathetic, empathic, talking with the customers to the right thing. And we are generating kind of a context for the customer over many different travel events, right? Like Amazon does with a login at the end, so they know not just the order, but they know really more about the customer. And from that on, we then can sell much better because we sell out of a context, also like Amazon does, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So we didn't invent it, right? But I think this is really what the big change is. And for that, for example, you have to have your customer data. You cannot just work with a PNR and with a second name or something like that. You really have to understand the customer in its end-to-end perspective.
And I just want to add to that. So one of the things that we do really well is we don't focus on selling a product. We don't always focus on the conversion rate. I think the biggest part of what we focus on is really value delivery for our customer. So it's more about how we're removing those friction points across each step of the digital journey and what we're doing for customers to ensure that when you cross a particular part of that journey on your new threshold, what is that aha moment for the customer? What is that value that they've received? And we know that if we over-index on the value we give to customers, you will automatically start to benefit from sales and from incremental, loyalty from your customers. So I think if we focus on those things, other elements such as the sales and the revenues and the benefits come along with that as well.
I think that there are a lot of people in the audience right now who are very envious when you said you don't focus on conversion rate. Yeah. Was that a hard argument to make with your management when you said we need to look at different metrics?
I think when you look at legacy airlines and the way we operate, conversion rate is going to be something that's always important because it is what is going to drive your business,
sure,
make it profitable, et cetera, right? But at the same time, if you look at conversion rate alone in isolation, you can make some very bad decisions for your business and for your customers. So to get a well-rounded understanding of how can I ensure that I'm augmenting that customer experience, and also that is rolling up into a higher conversion, you need to understand your customers. So it's not a matter of just, we throw conversion out the window. It's more of, let's understand our customers, let's understand the behavioral aspects of them and what we can do that's going to help drive conversion at a later part of the funnel.
Okay. It's customer lifetime value at the end. It's not the one conversion, but it's really how much the customer is then at the end, somehow playing into the whole story, right?
Yeah, but Oliver, you mentioned the importance of data, and that's something I very much agree with. We know that airlines don't do a good enough job, through the research, I should say, we've done. Airlines have shared that they know they don't do as good a job as they need to in not just collecting data, but assigning the data to a traveler. If you don't have a loyalty program number associated with that traveler, it's not always easy. So the question for the group that I'd like to toss out is, how do we take the data we have, make sure we do the best possible job of associating it with the passenger, even when we don't have a loyalty program number available? Because as you said, customer lifetime value is critically important to measure. But now, Quincy, Qatar is all-inclusive, as an airline, but Lufthansa is this hybrid model on European regional routes. You are buy on board in economy, it's inclusive on long haul. Roger, same with you in Finnair. So you're doing different things in different ways, but if I am checking a bag and buying a lounge pass and paying for fast track security and buying food and beverage on the plane and doing whatever else, all of that spending should be associated with me, so that you realize, oh, Henry is not as cheap of a customer as we thought he was.
Absolutely.
We can make money on him.
Yeah.
So I'd like to hear from the group. What can airlines do? What should we be thinking about so that we have that underlying data available to create the offers we want and aspire to be more personalized?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to go first.
Sure.
I mean, maybe we're a bit different. We're 100% focused on conversion. it's core to everything we do. Conversion is, though, we're measuring different things. So it could be, and going to your question, one of the jobs we want a customer to do is sign into their account when they come to the site. And so converting the customer doing that is a thing.
Do you give them an incentive to do that? Like with Amazon, when I sign in with Amazon, then I see the Prime deals or what's eligible for Prime shopping.
Yes.
And it says, oh, here's what you shopped for before, and so on.
We do a little bit of that. It's not quite at the level of a e-commerce retailer.
Right. Okay.
But a little bit of that. But yeah.
Okay.
But maybe the gentleman here.
I mean, I can give an example on what some of the airlines are doing on our side. So it's not necessarily related to offers and let's say additional promotions, which they could do, but they are using a lot of data around connections. So people that have short connections and about to miss connections, so they are telling them in advance or when they get on the ground, this is a wayfinding your directions to get your gate. So this is also giving people reassurance, less stress. They don't have to run, help the crew as well. So this is at the end bringing loyalty to the travelers to the airline. So that's a way that they can leverage the data they have without even being a loyalty member, right?
Right.
That's an example.
Okay. Steve, what about at Leighton?
I think that working with partners to collect that data and store it and make it available to product teams to use is quite important. Without, I suppose, giving that data to teams that can do something with it, there's not a great deal. It just goes in the ether. So if you can start capturing that data, working with your partners to store it somewhere in a big data lake, and then build APIs and such, so your product teams can use that to develop features for your products to inform the customers, I think would be quite exciting. I think a lot of airlines suffer from we don't have access to that. It just disappears. So I think if airlines could do more to work on data access and data collection and data storage, it would be much easier for the Quincy's of this world to direct his teams to build features that are interesting, built on that data.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, you're spot on. I mean, if I don't know that you are in my plane, right, where you have all these different services you normally use, then I will always make you the wrong offers, and you can have the best AI you want, it will not make you the right offer because it doesn't understand you, and that is this is for us. And there are some people here in the podium also which gave me a target on getting so much customers, converting so much customers into a login, which I didn't reach, by the way. But it's a really important target we have at Lufthansa Group to really get that customer data and also to monetize that customer data or use them for great experiences. And give you an example of a great experience. If you go into a Lufthansa airline plane, right, or a Lufthansa, Swiss, Austrian airline plane, and you had a bad experience with us in the past, imagine that. You had some cancellations. This normally doesn't happen with Lufthansa Group, but you may have a cancellation, right? Then our crews can really address you, apologize for that. And if you look at LinkedIn, for example, or somewhere else, there are so many people feeling that that moment where Lufthansa Group has apologized with them is such an important moment for them. You see how strong that is. And this you can only do if you understand your customer at the end. So therefore, I do believe getting this customer opt-in at the end for using his data is a very important thing. And yes, we have incentives. You can use, for example, our internet at board for free if you log in, or you get better offers from time to time. And naturally, you get a much better service if you call our call centers, right? Because the agent starts to understand you and not just thinks you're one direction flight going from A to B and having no history and no future.
So you mentioned something really good, which is basically garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly.
If the data isn't there, if the data isn't accurate, not even generative AI or AI overall can help. But what are ways that we can make better use of generative AI to create more engaging experiences? Are any of you using that yet? Or Steve, are you using that with any of your clients?
Yeah, I think if you've got a really strong customer profile, so collecting all that data and building that profile that is quite rich, there's using generative AI to analyze that data and make assumptions about the customer is quite an interesting way of leading into personalization. You can make some really good, almost guesses, which is very different to what we've done before with AI. So AI was very structured about creating a profile that led into a persona. Now it's a bit more creative, and you can tailor the experience. It might be that in January I buy business flights, but in the summer I buy family packages. That kind of richness we've not really seen in personalization, and I think a lot of Gen AI models can help get us there quicker than maybe more traditional AI.
Quincy?
Yeah, one of the things that we've done, so, as I started off earlier on saying that one of the things that we're super laser focused on is solving customer problems and removing friction points. And one of the solutions that we launched earlier on this year was a destination finder. And that was using generative AI, but it was a promptless experience. And that was giving customers the ability to find a destination based on looking at images and touching those images through a digital platform, whether it's your mobile phone, your computer, et cetera. And then the platform would provide you with a recommendation based on what sort of sentiments were attuned to you based on those images, right? And that was something that we've done based on the key fact that 30% of all leisure travelers did not know where they want to go to travel.
Right.
It was a huge problem. So you go to Qatar Airways or any other airline, you want to travel somewhere for leisure, but you're not sure exactly where to go through. So one of the things that we're thinking about is how can we remove that friction point without having to put in a whole bunch of prompts and text? And based on the analysis we did and all the findings, we felt that images were the best way to convey that and connect with the customers and really empathize with what they're feeling. So through a couple of clicks on a few images, you come out with a recommendation that is 99% accurate in terms of where you think you can go. And that's all based on using generative AI.
That's actually really interesting. And is it working? I mean, are you pleased with the results, or is it still like a test? Or
So we have it in beta mode at the moment. It is something that is available. But that's something that we do. We do a lot of experimentation with our team. We have some gurus from our experimentation team who are here today. So most of our products that are kind of bleeding edge or groundbreaking, we want to test with the market first. We want to get the signals. We want to understand how they're doing. And then before we go for full rollout, we iterate based on that feedback, and then we do a full rollout. So this right now is in beta testing, but we're moving towards that.
interesting. Please.
We've experimented with it as well quite a bit. We had slightly different approach, so not images, but we had a tour operator in the group, and we built a Gen AI chatbot. And what it was doing is that, if you're a family, you say, hey, you ask the kids, what do you want? And basically you input a wish list, and it would output a destination, a hotel, or a number of hotels, excursions, transportation, everything, like all-inclusive package. And it was really, with images, it was magical when it worked. The challenge we've had is that it's not accurate enough. We're really struggling. If you go a level below, I think, the destinations, below that, it's very difficult to get the Gen AI models to work in, let's say, 99% of the cases. You will get 5 to 10% of the cases that it just makes up stuff, it says the wrong hotel in a different city, and you get a really bad customer experience. So we actually had to scale back our Gen AI chatbot until we solved that issue. So it's very exciting, but still the technology, maybe, at least in our experience, is not quite at the level it needs to be.
Okay. And Oliver,
absolutely.
you're nodding your head.
I just want to come back to what you said, Steve. I mean, it brings in the creativity, but it also brings in the human touch into digital, right? I mean, it starts like the interaction becomes really empathic. And to your example, I think the art at the end on this Gen AI models is you have to combine this empathy thing with transactions. So you have all three. You'll have the empathic one, you have somehow the decision AI, and at the end you have the transaction. And you cannot take Gen AI into the transactions. That makes no sense. So just to give you a feeling about our chat assistant, we have around 50% of our interactions are with Gen AI supported. It really works like, first, the answer is very empathic, right? It tells you, wow, what a pity that you missed your flight because, and you even missed the birthday of your daughter. So very empathic, it can do that. But then it goes like, these are your options, and this is the classical AI, option N1, option 2, option 3. And then if you go into an option, it gets very transactional. We really tell you, this is your booking, this is your price, this is the result, because you have to be exact at the last end. And honestly, this is what customers want. Customers don't want to have, at the end, not knowing whether they are on this hotel or on this hotel, but their daughter feels good, right? I mean, this is not what they want. They want to really see that they are on that flight, on that hotel with that price, and this is at the end of the transaction. So the combination of the three worlds is the final art, and this will make digital not just empathic, but also trusted.
Yeah. I think let's build on this. Disruption management is something we've heard discussed on a few other panels before. It is important. As you said, no airline wants to delay or cancel a flight. Sometimes the circumstances are within the airline's control. Sometimes they are not, right? Hurricanes happen or strikes or whatever. But I think what we need to do is, what I'd like to do now, is talk about how can we use digital tools, digital products to make the disruption experience less traumatic for the customer. How can we take advantage of digital vouchers, of whatever else exists to make things more seamless? Are any of you guys doing this, or Steve, are you working with any airlines on it?
Yeah, the digital. I think when it comes to disruptions, again, it's about getting stuff into the hands quickly. So the mobile app is
right.
the perfect example. I think getting stuff into the channel that the mobile app can read is quite important. I think that's where a lot of the friction is for introducing new services. It's kind of, how do we enable our teams to be able to use this? So surfacing a voucher or something is relatively straightforward if you can get it into the infrastructure and give it to your teams. And that's probably the bigger challenge, the organizational change to allow change to be quicker is quite hard.
And
yeah,
if I may, there is also contextualization as well that you need to take into account. So,
yes.
You are at your airport, your flight is delayed, you get the voucher, right? So everyone is looking at like a list of shops where you can get, your, let's say your voucher to be redeemed, but it's never easy, right? So you don't know where the shop is located and etc. So some of our, let's say, airline customers are leveraging the kind of indoor mappings to show to the customers where they can actually leverage the vouchers, sometimes nearby to them as well. So that's not only personalization, but it's also contextualization, because we talk about digital tools, but at the end you're traveling in a physical space. So we need to associate both worlds.
Are any of you using these digital vouchers to help with disruption management and customer servicing? What are your experiences with it? Do people like it, or?
Yeah, so we're on the verge of exploring some of those type of automated services through digital. So when there is a disruption, it's more of an automated services versus you have to call in to make a claim, or you have to call to report that disruption and kind of get compensated for it. So those are things that we're exploring. I believe, understand and agree with my colleague there, it's also based on context.
Right.
So while we want to automate a lot of it, we want to make sure that there's proper context behind why we're automating or making some of those decisions behind it. And that's something that you have to do through, as we mentioned before, some of the experimentation and testing, and make sure that we're doing that. The other thing that we're doing on that also is leveraging a lot of geolocation services. So again, based on context and geolocation, if you're on your way to the airport and your flight is delayed, and we sense that you're on the way to the airport based on the app, you'd be able to receive a notification saying that your flight is going to be delayed, so that way you know what to do prior to you actually heading or reaching to the airport. So those are all things that we're exploring. I think it's a sweet spot where there's a lot of opportunity, but it's also something that you have to do very calculated, because that can also be very cost prohibitive if you go in the wrong direction and you're 100% automating everything.
Right. I think that's a very important point there, in terms of where and when do you decide to, if you will, push the button.
Yeah.
Right. Olivier, a question for you.
Yep.
Airports are getting larger. They never get smaller, they get larger. And wayfinding is more important. And you guys are doing the wayfinding even here at World Aviation Festival. Yes. But I'd like to understand what ways that exist for airlines to consider using digital wayfinding solutions that are non-obvious.
So I would say we work with around, as I mentioned, like 50 partners between airlines and airports. So the good thing is, working with airlines and airports, we also bring the ecosystem together where they can share the data. Around wayfinding, you actually have many different use cases you can leverage. I was mentioning the couponing story. Quincy mentioned the geolocalization. There are various things. So what we do with our partner airlines, we really discuss with them on what is their brand promise. What do they want to achieve with wayfinding? Wayfinding for wayfinding, no point, right? Now the customer is expecting this to come into the airport world. We all drive, we all look maps, etc. So this is definitely coming into let's say, the airport world. So if the airline wants to ensure, connections, like we work with Olivier with the Lufthansa group on our solution as well to help the short connections. But sometimes it's just, passengers in a plane that want to access a map of a big airport before they reach the airport, just to find their way. So accessing the maps through the Wi-Fi or the IFE is also something very interesting. You can have also things like, when do I need to leave my place to get to the airport? Mm-hmm. So that's where getting the access to the live data from the airport is crucial. Like, what is the deal at security? Is it going to be like long wait queues, or can I, buy a security access? So there are different use cases that every airline can, leverage. Can be also increasing revenue, like we were talking about offering lounge access or fast track security. You can do that through mapping, wayfinding. You can push information to those passengers as well that are interesting. So again, I think we would say, what's the value do you want to bring to the customers? Do you also want to be pushing information to them or waiting for them to come to you, right? That's the great thing with map and wayfinding, and some of our airlines use it in a push-pull mode. I would say another thing is we talked a lot about data. The great thing with this technology, which is kind of new in the airport space, is you can understand what people have been looking for, searching for, in an airport. What kind of products did they look for? We were talking the other day with Olivier, like, you are in an airport, you're looking for gluten-free things to buy, right? So that's an airport space, but at the end you are an airline customer as well. So you can find the different things. Or simple things as, where is the lounge of my, let's say, airline?
Sure. So, yeah, interesting. I have a question for, I'd like the airline panelists to start off the discussion. There's no one passenger, right? You all serve a diverse group of passengers, not just business, leisure, or individual travelers versus families, but people from different countries, people from different ages, people from with different levels of comfort in technology. Everyone from Gen Z to baby boomers and older. How do we balance developing the digital solutions we have that customers want while not getting ahead of them, right? All of us in this room would probably be like, oh, let's go do this, and let's go do that, and let's go do this. And we would all love it. But I bet our mothers-in-law would not. And what happens? They call. And what do we not want to do? Talk to our mothers-in-law sometimes. So how do we think about the balance of keeping the digital experiences creative, innovative, relevant, but in tune with the enormous diversity of people we serve? And Quincy, I'm going to start with you because Qatar Airways, again, you're global. You have this enormous different reach of customers, some of whom are not very technologically sophisticated, and some of whom are digital natives.
Yeah, I think a lot of that goes down to where you are in your personalization journey. So there's a big part of obviously understanding the customer, the context, what they want and what's important to them. The other part is how do you deliver that, right? If you understand where you are in your personalization journey, it makes it a lot easier to understand what you can actually serve to your customer. Everybody wants to be on this scale where you're hyper-personalized, but not everybody could deliver that, right? So you need to understand, am I starting off with just basic segmentation? Am I doing rule-based personalization? Am I doing context personalization? Or am I doing predictive personalization? And based on that, you need to understand what is your technology landscape in terms of what you can actually support. You need to understand what are the data assets that you have across the organization in the different areas, what kind of CDP or customer data platforms you have that could ingest that data and actually serve it to customers or make decisions. And then you got to also have the right type of culture within the organization to say, we are willing to sometimes try and experiment on a cohort or a segment to see how this particular offering goes by personalizing this experience, and then what's the feedback and reaction from that particular segment. And then look at what is the change you need to make in order to iterate what that personalization offer is. So I think it first starts with taking stock of where you are in your personalization journey in terms of the airline itself, understanding the customer, and then understanding what you can realistically do. Because again, everybody wants to do like this individual personalization journeys and benefits for the customers, but it's not realistic to think that you can do that from day one. So you really got to understand like where you are in your personalization journey.
Oliver, what about you? I mean, again, Lufthansa Group, you have Olivier said this today, between 14 and 16 airlines within the group. Again, enormous geographic diversity of customers. And so how are you all approaching this?
Yeah, and even, our app, I mean, it changes its color from time to time, but it's the same app. So we cater for many different airlines in different places. So it's not just Lufthansa, right? It's a whole spectrum of apps we are catering for. And I would add to this journey of personalization, I think it is also important for the digital systems to know when they reach their limits. Because, for example, give you an example, this is also part of personalization. If our chat assistant or our app has the feeling that it cannot help the customer anymore, it switches over to an agent, right? So and this also needs to be managed, right? This is also kind of a personalization, just to add to the personalization story you made.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to say something else. I mean, there is this big risk of that our people build these crazy features we all love, right? And I heard so many of these now in the last days, right? Amazing features. And to avoid that we build amazing features no customer is following, it's also important how you steer your teams. And if you can do me one favor, don't steer your teams for features. Steer your teams for outcome. If you steer your teams for, I want to have a better customer experience in that and that %, or I want to have better feedbacks, less complaints, and so they will stop building crazy features and they will go to customer-oriented features. And as I said, you come from Amazon. I think Amazon is not crazy. It's not crazy. Where are the crazy features of Amazon? But it's super usable, super simple to use. Just to take the Amazon example because you're in it. I could also take another one. Yeah. But I think that is very important that we also go away from this featureitis, we would say in German, or feature addiction, I think, and go back to the customer.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, so stepping aside the Amazon context, at Qatar Airways, what we also do that is very similar to Amazon is that we test a lot of our ideas, and if they fail, okay, they fail. But we've have a lesson that we've learned that we know this is what does work versus what does not work. And we're able to use those learning and that education from that actual failure or from that lesson to pivot in the right direction. So I think a lot of it is understanding that you don't know everything, and you're able to learn the lesson through failure. Because I think traditionally within airline, because it high regulation and compliance, and you have to be very strict in terms of your operational cadence, etc. There's this mindset that is, we can't fail. We got to do it right. We got to perfect it. We got to get everything, according to how the book says needs to be done before we can move forward. But I think if we start embracing this ideology of let's experiment, let's test it, let's see what the results is, and pivot or iterate, it makes it a lot easier to deploy products, as my colleagues said here, that are sensible for your end users, that are based on outcomes.
Right. At Forrester, when I worked there as one of the analysts, the saying was fail fast, fail cheap. So take a risk, do some testing. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, okay. But just, Yeah.
Well, I'm a bit different. I'm not fail fast. I'm learn fast. Learn fast, and then you pivot.
Good. Steve, you guys work obviously with different clients in different industries. When you're working with airline clients, do you ever point them and say, look, you should do more like this, and whether it's an industry or companies or whatever, what do you use as reference points to help airlines be better?
Yeah, I think with airlines, it's an interesting industry because it's in some respects, quite a simple product, but also an incredibly like complex product at the same time. It seems really simple. So as you move into hyper-personalization, you have to really monitor what you're doing. You need to, because you will get to a point where it becomes, you get no return from it. It becomes cumbersome, it becomes awkward. It stops the users from seeing what they want. If you get to a point where, we've all seen it on other websites, where a product you were just looking at disappears because it's not recommended anymore, it's moving a bit too fast. And I think the feedback mechanisms, the analytics, the experiments have to be there. And if you don't do that, and you're just getting stuff out there, you will get to a point where you've almost created chaos with personalization. It's become too dynamic, it's become too creative, and you've got to back away from that a little bit. A lot of industries, I think, don't have that complexity in their product because they're just selling things, not these products that have different prices over time, different cabins, different configurations, and that, I think, makes airlines quite unique in the e-commerce space.
Yeah. Okay. So, last question. As we look to 2025, is there any one technology that you think will play a major role in making your digital experiences better? Oliver, start us off.
CRM and Gen AI, I would say.
What, Gen AI?
Gen AI and CRM as a good customer management.
Okay. Quincy?
I think that we have a few, if I could think of. Obviously, Gen AI is one of them. Obviously, augmenting our MarTech solutions in terms of how we make those more effective. And then I would say more of, aggregating our data through our customer data platforms.
Interesting. Roger, what about it?
We're focused on two things. One is get the customers using our app up 100%. So that's very important, and I agree with Quincy. So marketing technology, marketing automation technology, I think that's going to be next the frontier, basically, where we're going to see a lot of impact, where it's easy to learn fast also.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think for me it's going to be the ability to get live data coming that is really trustworthy, right? Live data is key, so that's definitely what we are looking for.
Okay, thanks. Steve?
Yeah, I think Gen AI is the easy one. I think the hype's burning off from Gen AI now, and the engineering work, we're seeing more focused adoption. We actually know how it works a bit better. We know how we can integrate it. We know how we can control it a bit better to get real commercial outputs from that. So I think the next year, through 2025, we'll see more small adoptions of Gen AI, maybe it's in the background, not customer facing, in using that to streamline things and add context and make things a bit better.
Great. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our panel, Oliver, Quincy, Roger, Olivier, and Stephen.